did want to touch on is almost all of these children experienced speech disorders when they were younger. So I think it's safe to say that this change is that answer that it sounds like you guys were looking for some of those speech differences. Why, hello there. I think that would be our answer for there.
Okay.
I've seen that sometimes these kiddos have smaller height, weight, sometimes their head size is a little bit smaller than we would expect. We sometimes can see that they have what we call low muscle tone. So when they're babies, when you pick them up, sometimes their head's floppy or their arms and legs just kind of fall down instead of being able to hold them up.
Never had that problem.
Not really. I mean, she doesn't have the best coordination. You know, it took her a little longer to crawl and stuff like that. You know, a little longer, but not.
Coordination is definitely an issue, but I think body proportion is. I think she's in the normal spectrum.
She's skinny, but
looking back through her chart, it didn't seem like there were any concerns for growth. Sometimes we can see that these kiddos look slightly different than their other family members, which I don't think she does. Not all of them, so I definitely like to preface that with something that's not what we would expect for Amelia, and nothing that we would think about moving forward. And occasionally some of the kids in this group have had brain imaging just as part of their workup, and we have seen some brain differences in these kids. Now it's nothing significant enough that we would say, let's do imaging for Amelia. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure whether those changes are related to this change or just that we often do see some brain changes in kids with delays. And so I think it's hard to differentiate what's related to the genetics versus what just
the brain imaging something that we can request, or is that?
So for kiddos, it's pretty difficult because it's it's non-invasive, but
they have to sit.
You have to be still.
Yeah.
And so with kids, a lot of times it means sedation, and that's something we really try to avoid unless it's necessary. And so I think in this case, because Amelia's not showing us anything else that would be necessary, it's probably not something that we would
want to do at this time.
Yeah, at this time. I think it's something in the future, maybe a couple years from now, when she is ready to sit still for us, that's something we could think about. But I think even if we would do that imaging, it wouldn't change any of the ways that we're treating her.
Not right now, baby, in a minute.
Kids who haven't had these brain differences. So I just wanted to bring it up because if you do Google it, you will find that. But prefacing that, we don't think it would change anything for the way that we're treating Amelia.
Okay. You had also mentioned that individuals with this gene keep their intellectual disability. It's not something they grow out of.
So that's something that we're still learning about, especially because this group is so small and the group is so young. I think for the kids that have been older, we've seen that these are sometimes challenges that they do continue to face. And I think that we just need more research to know exactly where that is. In terms of, I imagine many of these children in the ranges that they are in are still able to hold jobs, still of course have friendships and relationships. And I think some of that is just a matter of where that line of independence is in terms of living totally independently, living with some others for support.
We're super concerned about impulse control and critical thinking skills as she grows into her early teens and stuff like that. Any suggestions on how to handle that other than just deal with it as a regular teenager?
So I personally, that's a little out of my realm of expertise. I'm pretty focused into these genetics. But I think that's absolutely a question that Kristen or even our behavioral analyst would be really primed to answer. And I think that you're thinking about all the right things before you're even there and dealing with those challenges. And so I think that's something that I can absolutely pass along to Kristen. And as she gets a bit older, we can set up those meetings with our behavior specialist to really give you guys the tools that you need, because I know our providers certainly are equipped to.
Last question that I can think of just off the top of my head, if you don't mind. You said that the sample group was only 25. Is this something that you have continued to see in only 25 people in the world diagnosed with this condition, but I understand this, the group was, how often do you see this?
That's a good question. So here when we do testing for our kiddos, they're pretty rare. So it's not often that we see multiple kids with changes in the same gene because their bodies have so many genes. When I say 25, that 25 is kids that have had papers written about them in the literature. Because those papers is how I learn how these kiddos are coming to us in clinic.
So she's not like the 26th person on the planet that has
No. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so it definitely, when we present it that way, is kind of how it comes across. So she is not the 26th person. We know quite
really rare.
Yeah, there are quite a number of kids who I imagine have changes in this gene. At this point, we're just kind of in that lag of waiting for the science field to catch up and write those additional papers. And so that's something that we, as an office here, do keep an eye on. How many kiddos do we see with these changes? And potentially, once we see a couple more, we'll write one of those papers. So that moving forward, we can say, well, here's another group of 10 kids, and this is what we see with them.
I see. Okay, great. All of them. Yeah, no, that's.
Want to, but
No,
some
that's
families
fine.
are interested
Educate
in
us.
what they mean. Okay. So again, you can write from the report.
We don't need a pen right now. We're talking.
You can get her a pen if she wants to color.
I don't know if I want you writing on all those papers though, Amelia.
Oh, here, I can give you some paper.
Can I have your folder, please? And then you can.
I'll trade you out.
Well, I don't know. She has papers in there that I have to give to the teachers.
Can I swap? Can we give these back to Mom? So what does this change do in the body? Essentially, we know that this gene is important for telling our body when to use certain instructions. Kind of like a light switch saying, yes, we need this one now. Nope, we don't need that one. All these letters and numbers I use to tell me where exactly this change is and what it's doing to the gene. So these numbers are just the location within the gene. And so this is the gene more than halfway through the gene. And I know that that change essentially deletes the last part of the section. And so just like if the last couple pages of a chapter in a book are deleted, we wouldn't know exactly what happens at the end of that chapter. So I think the same thing may be happening in Amelia's body, where her body just doesn't quite know how to finish that instruction. And that can be what causes some of these challenges and differences in the way her body's working.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Great.
Heterozygous and de novo. So what those things mean is we all have 2 copies of each of our genes. One comes from mom, one comes from dad. Heterozygous just means that one copy is not working. So one copy is short, the other copy is working exactly like it should. That's what that means. Go ahead.
Is both of us have a concern that it was something that maybe we did. Is that a possibility that, it's because I drank too much Mountain Dew or something?
Sure.
I mean,
Reassuring you right now that it was absolutely nothing that either of you did.
Okay.
And I think that's a real strength of this testing, that I can very confidently sit here and tell you that it was nothing that either of you did.
Hi, Becky.
The other question
Hello,
was,
Amelia.
I had to doctor.
would there be any benefit to either of us getting this testing to see? Well, it's not like we're having any more kids.
We did get the testing. Remember you putting your spit in the...
Oh, yeah.
So I can answer that question for you right now.
It's like we all did it that day,
Yeah.
remember?
We did,
Yeah,
we already
okay.
looked at both of your samples, and that de novo piece tells me that it's a new change only in Amelia.
I see.
So neither of you have this change.
You have to put that in there so you don't. So she can't say it's my fault and I can't say it's her fault. It's your damn genes. Okay.
Totally new, just in Amelia.
Okay.
And also like to point out there in terms of, what causes this, these are totally random changes that happen. None of us have any control over it. It's nothing anybody does that causes them. It's just
Is it
a part of
hereditary?
biology.
I mean, is it something that she could pass on to her children if?
So it's something that if Amelia has children in the future, there is a chance that she could pass this on.
I see.
Because it's present on one of her copies, there's a 50% chance she could pass on the same one, or a 50% chance she passes on the one that's working typically.
Yeah.
And so it's a 1 in 2 chance.
Can you get, if she did get pregnant, is there a way to test for it before she would have?
In utero.
In utero?
Yep, so this is something that we could test for either while she's pregnant. There's some testing like an amniocentesis, if you've heard of that.
Okay, so
curious.
if she does get pregnant, she can test.
Okay.
Yep, so something we could test for.
Interesting to know.
Is that? I mean.
Well, I never had any testing.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that
done
something?
while I was pregnant? Something we could have done and known ahead of time.
So there's
Probably.
certainly no way that we could have known that any of these genetic changes happen. Just for reference, for every child that's born, they have about 30 to 50 new genetic changes from their parents. Totally new just to them.
Okay.
Most of them we think don't do anything. We think most of them are just totally benign changes that make us all unique and different from our parents. And so our role in genetics, my job really, is to look at all these changes and say, is this a change that's doing nothing? Or is this a change that maybe could be affecting the way that their body's working? And so once we know these changes, it's something that we can look at moving forward in future pregnancies to say, is this something that we see? But we're just not to the point in the field yet where we can test any pregnancy without any indication to say, what are these changes doing? Does that make sense?
Yep, perfect.
With that point, I know you guys said you're not planning on having any other children.
No.
Nope.
I just want to say this to check that box so you guys know. Because I know that Amelia has a sister. So we would expect that Amelia's sister does not have this change. And so should she have children in the future, there would be no chance of her passing this on because you can't pass on something that you don't have. For any future children for either of you two, we would also expect very likely would not have the same change because it was new in Amelia. There are very, very rare instances where some of dad's sperm or some of mom eggs can have the same change in multiple of those egg or sperm. So mom or dad would not have it when we do this testing, but they could potentially have multiple children with the same change.
Mommy.
Well, honey.
Now that's very, very rare. It's certainly not what we would expect, but we do like to bring it up because it's not impossible. But by and large, we would expect totally random thing and chance for the same change to happen again to be very low. And then moving on to this final box, this pathogenic, just means that we made that distinction that we think this change is Amelia's explanation. The very last thing I wanted to mention about this genetic testing, if you remember Julianne talked to you when you signed up for this testing, there's the chance to look at other genetic changes related to totally unrelated health concerns, so things like future chance to develop cancer or have a heart condition. And all of that testing came back negative.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yay.
So definitely reassuring. Of course, have to preface that it doesn't rule out the chance of any medical concerns in the future, but definitely a big reassuring front.
That's good.
So just important to keep following what the doctors recommend. So what do we do moving forward? We're going to keep following Amelia. I'm putting this in her chart and sharing it with all of her providers. But like I said, at this point, what Amelia's showing us and how she's doing in school and learning moving forward, those are really the things that we're using to guide our expectations of what to expect.
Sounds good.
With this testing, I've alluded to that we're learning more and more every single day about genetics. And in a year, I really believe that we're going to know even more about this gene and more about these changes as we do testing for more kids across the world. And so what we automatically do is in about a year, I'll revisit this testing. So I'll basically redo all of my research to say what more have we learned. So if we've learned more, I'll go ahead and give you guys a call or write you a letter. Maybe I'll catch you when you're in clinic to give you that information. But also, I really encourage families the next time you come in here, ask your provider, hey, about those genetics, have we learned anything else?
Yeah.
And they can come back to my office, and I'm more than happy to look it up while you guys are here to give you an update.
Okay, great.
So don't hesitate to ask about these results. The very last thing I like to give families is totally optional, not something that you have to do. But there's a research project called Genome Connect, and how that works is you guys could sign up for it online, you'd upload her results, and then researchers have access to those results and any information about Amelia that you could put in. And so that helps researchers do some more studying and help put out those papers that I use to guide when I'm telling families.
Okay, great.
A big benefit of this research project, I think more useful for parents, is that it can connect you with other parents whose kids have been found to have the same change. And so a lot of parents really like that sense of community and being able to talk to other people who are maybe more so in the same boat, especially with these rare genetic changes that we're finding.
Okay.
So that's why I like to bring it up, just for that community piece, because some families find that helpful.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a lot of information I
No.
just put on you.
No, but I mean, it gives, I feel a little refreshed because it gives me an answer. It's not something you did, it's not something I did. It's just, it is what it is, and that's.
Are there any questions that we should ask that we didn't ask?
No, you guys have been asking all the right things.
Okay.
Um,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else to.
Is there any questions you wish people would ask? What's the biggest takeaway from Amelia's diagnosis so far?
I think the biggest takeaway, at least from what you guys have reflected to me, is that piece that this is a new change only in Amelia, and nothing that anybody does that causes this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big benefit of this testing, is that I'm able to very confidently sit here and tell you that we think this change is our answer, and it's a totally random thing that happens.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good news.
Yeah, I think it is good news, honestly.
I pick up.
So
I mean,
just say, okay.
Is there anything else that
Mama.
we can do? You said we're doing everything else as far as.
Yeah, I think you guys are doing all
Prune
the
juice,
right
or
things.
I
Maybe in the next couple
Is
of
there anything we
years
should be
we'll have
feeding her
some.
that, more broccoli?
Yeah, but it seems like you guys are doing absolutely all the right things.
Awesome.
And I think as we continue to learn more in the future, which we will, I hope to be able to give you guys some more
Great.
information. But you're doing all the right things.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is for you guys. You can
Okay.
put it in that folder.
Okay.
In that folder.